hello everybody. My name is Gordon Glenister. I'm the Global Head of Influencer Marketing at the Branded Content Marketing Association. And I'm going to be doing a series of video interviews with various thought leaders in different sectors. So today, my first guest is Jane Adshead-Grant, who is a professional leadership coach, I think is probably the best way of describing her. She's had an esteemed career, and so a big welcome today from Jen.
Thanks, Gordon. It's lovely to be with you and to your listeners today. I look forward to our time together.
So tell us about, what does it mean to be a leadership coach?
Well, for me, Gordon, specializing in leadership is something I've been really passionate about. So I've been in the business in people-centric roles for over 30 years now. And 18 years ago, I set up my coaching and leadership development practice. And for me, I've learnt a lot about leadership, not only in my own role previously in the corporate world, but more from coaching clients, coaching both emerging leaders and experienced leaders. And more than anything, as a parent, I'm blessed to be called mum to two beautiful daughters. And I've learnt a lot around leadership in that role too. But for me, what it means is it's about creating an environment for individuals to step into their natural resourcefulness and their potential as a leader. And so as a coach, it's about creating an environment for them to think well for themselves with rigor, with courage and imagination, so that they can be the leader that they want to be, so growing themselves and in turn growing their business.
So we've just, in the process of coming through, we hope, lockdown, I'm guessing a lot of leaders there's no blueprint for leading an organization, a business or whatever through these challenging times. And I'm guessing a lot of them will be tested. Where do leaders get their resource and their resilience from in these times? What have you been trying to do to help them?
Well, you know, everybody's different. And so the leaders that I have the privilege of coaching will respond differently depending on who they are. But what I'm noticing and the kind of conversations that I'm having in supporting leaders navigate this crisis are those around, first of all, what can they do for their people, their team members? So really becoming compassionate and empathizing with ensuring that their team members have what they need, whether it's through working from home, whether it's through getting the communication that they need so that they can feel, have some kind of certainty in this very uncertain world right now, and that they feel cared for. So the first thing is around developing the muscle of compassion. The second thing in helping leaders navigate this time is to really focus on their communication, being clear and consistent in the messages that they share with their team members. And for many of the leaders I coach, they have a global team membership. So their employees are working globally. And so it's around using different mediums. A lot of them are doing video broadcasts, some are writing emails, some are crafting kind of more fun newsletters as a way to connect with team members.
Interesting. But have you found them feeling very isolated? They often say being a leader can be quite an isolating role in normal times, let alone challenging times. So how have you helped to coach people around that isolation?
Well, I think that's a myth, that leadership is a lonely role. The reason I think it's a myth is because great leaders are great listeners. And when leaders step out into listening to their team members and sharing the vision and the strategy of where we want to get to and how we want to serve the customers and clients we have, and really doing it in partnership with their team members, it's not a lonely job. And so therefore, I do believe that's a myth. But what I do think is true is that, you know, to your point earlier, Gordon, that, you know, this is the first time for many leaders in navigating this piece. And so therefore, my role as a coach, they tell me, has been invaluable in terms of having the time to really think for themselves as to what they can do to serve their team members and their customers and clients in this way. And I think in terms of where do they go to get resourced for this, coaching has been a fundamental part of that, but also reaching out and being willing to be vulnerable. And part of this communication is right now, from a leader perspective, is, I don't know all the answers right now. But what I do know is that we're going to get through this together. And so I think is another role of the leader is to really provide a sense of, hope, if you like, a grounded sense of hope that we are going to get through this together. And, one of the most memorable characters for me through this period has been the wonderful Captain Tom, now Colonel Tom, of course, having been given that wonderful recognition, is that, here we have a gentleman 100 years old on the 30th of April, who shared his message to the world that whilst we've been through World War II and we've survived that, he was saying that, we can do this, we can get through this together. And he really inspired a nation, and in doing so, raising over £30 million because of the message of hope that he continued to give us day after day after day.
100%. I mean, you use the word listening. Listening is a real skill, often underplayed, and probably never more important. In fact, I know you've written a book about this. What would you say is the art of a true listener? What are the ingredients in making a really good listener?
Well, I appreciate that you recognize, Gordon, that it's a skill that is often overlooked, because that is my experience too. And so for me, the first thing about being a great listener is to be willing to be that. So have an open mind, be willing to listen to others, and being okay with being proved wrong. And what I mean by that is having a mindset that says, those people in this room around me right now, have ideas of their own, some that are going to be way better than mine. So the first thing is about having an open mindset. The second thing is about not interrupting, because so many people, they have this, they fail to resist the urge to interrupt. And the reason for that is that when we interrupt someone, the brain experiences that interruption like an assault. And you'll know it when you have 2 or 3 things on your mind and somebody interrupts you, and then you forget that extra point that you were going to share. So remember, the next time you seek to interrupt, the person to whom you are listening feels and experiences that like an assault on the brain. The third thing I would say about being a great listener is about giving your attention, clearly free from interruption, and also free from distraction. So when you say to someone, you make that commitment to listen to them, it's literally removing your iPhone or turning it literally upside down so even it doesn't flash up. Because as soon as you allow that distraction, what that says to that person is that phone's more important than you right now. So, close the laptop, turn your phone over, be free of the external distraction, and also be free of the internal distraction. So quieten your own mind to what might be going on for you, because the minute you commit to listening to someone, you're listening for their benefit, to support them, to help them know and feel that they matter.
Great response. I mean, interestingly enough, you've been doing this now a number of years as a coach, but I'm intrigued to find out how you started, and you alluded to it a little bit at the beginning, but what's your journey like? And I'm guessing, like all business owners, you've had a few bumps along the way. Perhaps you can sort of share some insights about, what's been some of your greatest successes. Equally, where have you found challenges?
Well, I think I was very, very fortunate having the first 15 years of my career in the corporate environment, and I learned a lot. I was in always people-centric roles, as they were called, HR, human resources back then. And I learned a lot from role models of great leaders. The very first person I worked for in Swiss Bank Corporation was an amazing lady, Francesca, and she taught me the art of professionalism and how to really serve and be organized, and to really enable other people to perform at their best. Equally, on the other hand, I had some very difficult leaders. I felt quite toxic, that spoke over me, that sometimes took my work and credited as their own, and that would shout and bawl at me in the middle of the trading floor when I was in the investment banking arena. And so I learned what good leadership looked like, and I learned what leadership that crushes other people could look like. So it was my role actually in the corporate environment that inspired me to become a coach, because the team members that I used to lead would always say to me, I feel so, I feel that I've grown under your leadership, Jane. And one of the things that whenever I left an organization, I always had somebody to fill my shoes. And they would be the people who were coming up who worked for me. So I learned a lot in my corporate world in order to help me become, set up this kind of coaching practice. So for me, as I navigated that journey, of course, to start with, it wasn't easy. So I finished the corporate world, and it was at a time when we had our first child. And I was very clear on the mum I wanted to be, how we wanted to raise her and how I wanted to be there for her. And at the same time, continue being the professional that I wanted to be, to serve others in the world of business. And so that was tough to start with, as I was navigating being a mum for the first time and being a business owner for the first time. But what I learned through that period was how to create, generate, and sustain relationships. Because for me, business is all about people. And it was the impact, the effort that I put into developing and sustaining relationships that enabled me to grow my business year on year. Flipping onto the challenges, however, I remember one of the things for me, one of my values is lifelong learning and personal growth. And so for me, I'm always wanting to master my craft. And so having been already accredited coach, I decided to pursue a postgrad in psychological coaching. That was probably 6-7 years after I had become an accredited coach, but I wanted to go deeper and master my craft, or continue to do that. And that was at a difficult time because I had 2 young children. I was running my coaching practice and seeking to win clients. Then I was taking this postgrad degree over a 2-year period. And at the time, my husband was in a global international role and traveling lots. And so I made many sacrifices to work and study and be the mum I wanted to be. And again, for me, the lesson that I learned there was that when you follow your heart and do what you truly believe, it's worth making those sacrifices for, because you can step into being who you're meant to be and giving to the world your gifts and talents. And anything that's worth having is worth working hard for.
Very good, very good. So have you had have you worked with a mentor at all for you? Have you had a sort of people that have supported you?
Very much so. So as you go through the journey of becoming a coach, we have coach mentors and coach supervisors in order for us to become accredited. But I would say beyond that, I've had some fantastic mentors over the years in my coaching profession and helping me get to the master coaching accreditation. And more broadly than that, I guess the 2 people that really stand out for me along my journey has been, first of all, Nancy Klein, the author of Time to Think and More Time to Think. Because when I met Nancy and studied her work and then trained with her, it was Nancy who really transformed my life, both as a mum, as a daughter, as a professional, and my coaching practice. Because it was Nancy who had helped me recognize, how do we help people think for themselves as themselves? And it's through the craft of generative listening and insightful questions and appreciating others for who they are. And so the work of Nancy really has informed my work today. And she continues to be an amazing mentor for me, and meet with her regularly. So that very much on the coaching part of my business. And the other mentor that I am now fortunate to know and to learn from on a regular basis is Bob Chapman, who is the CEO of a global organization, Barry Waymiller, and is the pioneer behind what he calls truly human leadership. And this very much dovetails with my own philosophy around treating everybody with dignity and respect, and creating work environments where people can find and nurture their talents and really grow from that. And so these 2, Nancy and Bob together, continue to be great mentors for me in being able to make the changes that I want to make in the world, in creating these environments for people to know that who they are and what they do matters.
Great, great. I mean, I'm guessing that a lot of people don't have mentors because they're not having somebody that checking in on them and making sure that they're delivering against their own aspirations. And I think we often, and particularly during these difficult and challenging times, I think there's never been a better time to have a mentor or a coach because sometimes left to our own devices, we can be dangerous. And so I guess you would always advocate that people seek out support.
Very much so. I mean, I've seen it. I mentor other coaches, and I feel very privileged to do that. I'm passionate about giving back to my profession, and so I mentor coaches coming through, to become accredited with our professional body, the International Coach Federation. And for me, it's a real privilege being able to create the space for people to learn and master their skills in that way. And I think in the business environment, I always encourage people to seek out mentors, and off their own back though, not wait for the organization to roll out some great mentoring program, rather to reach out in your own network, to think about who is it that has inspired you, or and somebody perhaps even outside of your own industry or organization that is, has a different perspective that they can share with you. And so also encourage your own thinking. Because one of the things that I often find in businesses and organizations is that sometimes people don't feel they have a voice. They'll do what, the organization or the leader of the team says, okay, I'll just conform to what they're saying. Whereas actually one of the things that I think this crisis has shared with us, one of the good things that have come out is that, the level of compassion has increased hugely for leaders and their teams. The creativity and innovation that we've seen, whether it be telemedicine or whether it be, organizations repurposing their manufacturing plants to make ventilators. Dyson is a classic example. And young children this 9-year-old girl who borrowed her grandparents' 3D printer to make PPE equipment. And so, these are the things that a mentor can help really inspire people as a coach as well, but they're quite different relationships, but to really inspire people to really bring out this creativity and innovation and to give them the confidence to think for themselves and create new breakthroughs.
I mean, you use the word inspiring quite a lot there. I guess a natural question would be, who's really inspired you? Perhaps outside of your profession, but anybody. Who do you think is a really inspiring individual?
Well, I have two. And for me, Gordon, there are two daughters. So they're both now teenagers. And they inspire me each and every day because they help me to become a better person. They inspire me to become a better mum, a better leader, and a better person in our community and my world of business. And I say that because they teach me things every day. They ask me great questions. They stretch me. They provoke my thinking. And they really inspire me with their own intelligence and their creative thinking and their desire to make a contribution in the world. And so, yeah, these are the two that greatly inspire me.
Oh, that's fantastic. That wasn't the response I was necessarily thinking about, but lovely nevertheless. Is there a question that I haven't asked you that you would ask of you if you were me?
I guess the question is, what changes do you hope will be sustained as we re-emerge from this crisis?
What do you think?
So I've shared a few things just now, and I guess what springs to my mind is what I hope will be sustained is greater compassion, that not only leaders of this world, but each and every one of us holds greater compassion for one another. And what I mean by that is not only having more empathy, because I define empathy with an understanding, seeking to understand how other people might feel in this time. But compassion takes it one step further. Compassion is then acting upon that empathy. So we've seen great examples where people have been compassionate to one another, to buying food for our neighbors, to stepping up and taking care of their team members who may be struggling, to people contributing financially to other businesses and people who have been struggling. So these are the areas of compassion I would have seen and would love to see more of, as sustained as we move out of this this crisis. The second is creativity. So I think it's what's been shown is that what we thought an impossible has now become possible in a matter of weeks. And for me, this is about really challenging the assumptions that we as individuals hold about ourselves, about each other and the situation. And creativity is born out of creating an environment for people to think for themselves as themselves. So I'd love to see more of this happening, more creativity, giving people the opportunity and challenging assumptions, whether it's true or not. What can we do that would enable us to create new and better things? And the last thing that I would love to see sustained as we re-emerge from this crisis is encouraging others to be their courageous self, encouraging them to go to the edge of their thinking, encouraging them to break through from this conformity that they sometimes feel locked upon or locked in, so that we can encourage our young people and people in organizations to do the right thing, and to do the right thing to serve other people in, for whom they have the privilege of working with.
Fabulous. Thank you, Jane, so much for that insightful half an hour that we've been able to share together. So if people want to find out a bit more about you, what you do, where's the best way of them getting hold of you?
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you could check me out on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from any of you. If what I've said today resonates, please do reach out and let's connect on LinkedIn. Also on my website, simply www.janeadshead-grant.com, and I'm writing blogs every month and other resources that are available to you there. So please check me out and download what I have on my website there.
Great. Thank you very much, Jane Adshead-Grant.
Thanks, Gordon.